we could fly.
Welcome to this new season of the Have a Cup of Jahani podcast. So I want to title this new season that I'm embarking on with I'm Growing. So this is going to be the season of growth. And that's what I'm going to share with you throughout the season. So I thank you for coming over here and sitting with me. And I hope you enjoy. Hello, everyone. So not only do I sound a whole lot better, that's because I kicked most of my cough away. And I was just like this dry cough that is lingering. But I'm also in my house. I am so happy to be back home for a few days in El Paso. And I am here in my regular studio, like my actual studio. So I call this my home, my forever home, that no matter where the Army sends me to, I will always come back here. So I love it because I feel so, I'm going to repeat the same word. I feel so at home. I am in my office, which we work so hard to put it together. Behind me, I have this vibrant yellow wall, which I love the color yellow. Not only is it vibrant, but it's a happy color for me. It revives me. It makes me feel so much joy. So I love it. I knew from the beginning when my husband and I got this house that I wanted a yellow accent wall in my space, in the space that will be for me. And sure enough, that's what we have here. But nevertheless, on today's episode, we are going to talk about logical fallacies. So if you heard me on last episode, or I think the one before that, I talked about how I am not so much on social media. Like I'm not putting out too much content. That is because the current, I wouldn't call it a conflict. We're way beyond conflict right now. Right now, it's like a genocide. It's like a rampant killing of a group of people happening, and in Gaza and in the West Bank. And I feel like when things like this happen, the internet, the social media particularly, just shows the worst side of people. And I feel like people try so hard to push their beliefs on others or to prove that they're right, that the things that they say are so hurtful and dehumanizing that I'm like, I want to believe that everyone that writes those things is a bot. But the logical side of me is saying not all of them, right? Those are actual human beings meaning and saying those things on the other side of the keyboard, which makes me sad all around at the state of humanity. Whenever we go through something like this, it was the feelings for me was very similar to when we was all holed up at home and the death of George Floyd, when that man just stepped on his neck and killed him. When that happened and everything that occurred afterwards, it was just like this underlining hate that has always been there, kind of like froths up, kind of like surfaces, right? Just comes up to the surface. And it's a feeling that I get, and it's just so heavy that I have to come out of that environment so that way it doesn't hit me as hard, while at the same time going in there and sharing and amplifying voices of the people that are suffering, that they have firsthand or secondhand accounts because they're either from the diaspora or they are in there. And that's really most of my content. If you go to my social media, that's mostly, it's not necessarily original, but it's mostly reposting because I feel at times as if there's not much that I can say except for support, advocate, and amplify. But because I have seen so many of these arguments online, I figured that I wanted to talk about the logical fallacies. Now, let me tell you a little story time here. Oh, I almost forgot. Hey, so if this is not a subject that is for you, because I am going to be talking about what's happening in Gaza right now, as well as logical fallacies, right? If this is something that is going to get you down or whatnot, and it's not for you, just, hey, go on and skip this episode and come back to the next one, or go listen to some of my previous episodes. All right. For those of you that have stayed here to listen, let me tell you about the first time that I had the logical fallacies presented to me. And that was when I attended a rhetoric class. And it was I don't know why I had to, it was an elective that I had to take. And it is so sad. It was an elective, I think, I want to say for my master's program. So I didn't know about this because it wasn't in my business administration degree. It wasn't in my criminal justice administration degree either. The associates, no, I don't think so. I may be getting it wrong. But the one time that I remember like actually having a lesson on this was in my master's of fine arts for creative writing, which is weird. Well, I guess it goes hand in hand, right? Because when you are writing, you're communicating, right? You're presenting an argument as well. Even in fiction, even in creative writing, you're still presenting an argument. You're still presenting and advocating for a thesis. So I had an elective it was part of my beginning classes, and it was rhetoric. And in this class, I had a bit about the logical fallacies. And logical fallacies, if you're like me and you came to know about this later on in life, this is what I got from the class. So let me see. It's almost like I'm testing myself right now. So these are arguments that are not valid because the logic is not there. But in the textbook, it cautions you to understand that it doesn't necessarily mean that the argument is not true. It's just that the person presenting it using some of these logical fallacies does not have a strong argument with them because it's not within the basis of logic, right? So it will be easy to, like if you were in a courtroom per se, right? It'll be very easy to tumble to refute this argument just because it's not solid. It's not on a strong basis. Okay. So these are logical fallacies. So I have seen quite a lot of them, and I think it was 16. There's like formal and informal logical fallacies. And I want to say there were 16. I'm not going to go through all 16, but I'm going to go through the ones that I have seen quite a lot when it comes to being online, either threads. I have not been on X, or formerly known as Twitter, for a while because the vitriol there is just insane. So I definitely cannot be there right now because it's too much. But threads, I don't see it on Instagram. And I think it's because Instagram is mostly just aesthetic wise. But TikTok and threads as well. Threads mostly. That thing turned savage pretty quickly. I was like, oh my goodness, where did all these people come from? It's like, if you're on threads, check it out. Maybe you agree with me. Maybe you don't. Maybe it's because I have kind of like took a turn where I shouldn't. But it's like I read the commentary on some of these posts. Maybe I shouldn't do that. And it is just, wow, so hateful. All right. So the one that I seen the most on threads is ad hominem. And these are personal attacks. This is what I see the most. And let me tell you, I'm not particularly saying pro-Israel people are the only one that are doing this. It's really both sides. I've seen it. And oh goodness, and let's not get into the elections, because once we get closer to the elections, you will see this. You will see this. Okay. So these are personal attacks. So this is when somebody attacks the presenter of the idea as opposed to the idea itself, right? And you see this often. Oh my goodness. And this is where I find the most dehumanizing language, because people just go after someone's looks. It's like someone could be advocating and saying, you know, these many kids have died, you know, seeking shelter in hospitals and stuff like that, right? And they put a number out, and you find one of the commenters there just saying something about, you're so stupid, you know, you look like you're stupid because your face looked like this, and something like that. I'm not doing it justice. Thankfully, I'm not doing it justice, because it's just so hateful, the things that they say. So basically, this person that attacks the idea, I feel like all they're doing is just clicking on the profile picture, finding something that they don't like about that person's looks and appearance, and attacking that.
We'll be right back.
Are you ready to embark on a captivating journey of resilience and revelation? Get ready to immerse yourself in the extraordinary world of Isla Delgado, a 9-year-old girl who has experienced more than her fair share of trauma. Isla's life takes a dramatic turn when she's forced to live with her dad and his new wife for 6 months. Her anxiety intensifies as she becomes convinced that her stepmom is an evil witch. But Isla is determined to protect herself and expose her stepmom's true nature. As the gripping story unfolds, Isla discovers that things aren't always as they seem. Join her on a transformative journey of self-discovery, where she learns that even the most traumatic experiences can be triumphantly overcome with the power of love and understanding. People are saying, while the alarming trend of attempting to ban books continues in the United States, this book is a fantastic reminder of the power that books have. A child will read this story and feel seen, heard, and hopefully feel some peace. For children of the appropriate age, this book provides the opportunity for a wonderful exercise in empathy. The message of the story is truly something a lot of children out there, and even some adults, might need to hear. Mrs. Franchi's Evil Ring and the 6 Months That Changed Everything is a heartwarming tale that explores the profound theme of family, trust, and the power of compassion. This inspiring story will leave listeners of all ages feeling uplifted and inspired. Don't miss out on this middle grade read, and be prepared to be captivated by a story that will touch your heart and ignite your imagination. Mrs. Franchi's Evil Ring is available everywhere books are sold.
So you see, so as soon, like, and I don't know if it's because in the back of my head, I still have all these lessons, right, and teachings that I have gotten throughout life, that as soon as I see that, I'm like, oh, that's a personal attack, blocking it. You know, it is kind of like, not quick per se, but it's kind of like just a switch, right? That I'm like, oh, that's a personal attack. You know, I know this is not going anywhere, because this is not going to be conducive to a conversation, right? Of going back and forth on ideas. People. An argument should be about ideas. I present this idea. You debunk it with some facts or other ideas, right? But when it comes to at home, and you're not getting anywhere, because you're just attacking the person presenting the idea. And I often see that, and in cases where there's, excuse my language, but with rape victims where they get attacked, they personally get attacked, and we get into victim blaming, and as opposed to just arguing the right what is presented that this person was violated, the other party usually attacks the person. And that's one of the reasons why, going back to my victim advocate training, why a lot of victims don't want to come forward and go through the court system, because they know that most likely they will be personally attacked. Okay, so that is ad hominem. All right. The next one is false dichotomy. And this is a black and white. I have seen this one as well. Oh my goodness. I have seen this one as well so much. So this is where a person is just very black and white. I like to say I'm a black and white person, meaning that I either do something well or I don't do it at all. I don't know if that counts as a black and white person, or I'd like to know what right looks like, or what's legal, moral, or ethical, and to just kind of like stay within those bounds, right? I'm kind of like that kind of person. I will always ask, well, what does the regulation says, right? Because I want to be within those bounds. So in that case, I'm a black and white person. But when it comes to logical fallacy, black and white means when a person is presenting two ideas as if that is all that there is. People, you will also see this in the upcoming elections. You're going to see it that people are saying, well, if you don't vote for this, you automatically, you're going to see it. Mark my words, right? And I think we're seeing a little bit of that now on social media. But when it comes to what's happening in Gaza and the West Bank, let me tell you that people are having a reaction when others say to advocate for freedom for the Palestinian people. And someone says from the river to the sea. And when they get presented with this phrase, they're saying that, and maybe my logic is wrong here, but this is how I'm viewing it, that automatically that phrase can only mean two things, right? That all of Israel will be wiped out, or the Palestinians are the only ones that get to live. You see what I'm saying? Because people are saying that is a phrase that advocates for violence, that is a phrase that advocates for genocide and all that other stuff. So you see how they hear a phrase and they're saying that it's just two ideas. That's all that phrase can mean. It cannot mean anything else. It can only mean that either no Israelis will be there living or no Palestinians will be there living. That's it. And this also, I don't know if you remember, but the phrase Black Lives Matter also had this same, how can I say, like strong emotional reaction from the public. And what happened here was that people were saying, well, if you're saying Black Lives Matters, that can only mean two things, that only Black lives matters and that white lives or anything else other than Black does not matter. You see what I'm saying? So that is how I see that fallacy of the black and white fallacy, the false dichotomy. And when in reality, from the river to the sea, and you will hear a lot of activists, Palestinians, and from the diaspora explaining it, that means that they want freedom of movement. They want freedom to be human in that entire territory, not just in the section of territories that they have. But, people continue to argue that that's not true, that it can only mean this or it can mean that. And if you say that phrase, you either for or against it. So whenever you hear somebody arguing that one thing can only be one of two things, they're most likely using the false dichotomy. All right. So that was false dichotomy, people. Let's go into red herring. I see this one a lot. And I think of red herring as somebody going, squirrel. It then just making everybody look towards something else, right? As opposed to focusing on the idea, right? On the thing at hand that we're working towards. And that's how I see red herring. And it's basically somebody that presents a completely unrelated or almost unrelated idea when an argument is presented. And so when it comes to the current events going on, I see this quite often when people, and it's sad, and it's not something that is funny at all, but people are okay. It seems to me like they're okay with what's happening when they argue that, well, those people over there are this or this or that, or all the violence that happens in the Middle East. And it's almost as if they are okaying what's happening by saying, well, look at all these human violations that have occurred in the Middle East. So it's okay to bomb them now. You see? So it's kind of like they're presenting other things that have happened there, or they would say, oh well, what about the LGBTQIA people and how they're not wanted, by their people? So for sure, it must be okay, right, to do everything that we're doing now to them. So it's kind of like that. It's kind of like somebody bringing an outside thing into the argument to invalidate the problem being presented, right? And in this case, the problem will be, let's not continue on with the bombing, right, of these territories. And somebody will say, well, they don't like the LGBTQIA community, or well, they have their own human rights violations in the Middle East. And you see how not intelligent that sounds? But people do that. Be on the lookout too. Be on the lookout for these arguments. And if you see it, let me know, because they're there. They're there. The arguments are there. Okay. The last one that I want to talk to y'all about is the straw man argument. And that's when you present the argument and then per se the opponent, right? The person that is on the opposing counsel or opposing your argument, they misrepresent or exaggerate the argument presented to them to make it easier to attack. It's almost like the dichotomy a little bit, the false dichotomy. So I see this when you are saying these policies are not right. These policies in Israel are not right because they're subjugating a group of people. And you present that idea, and then somebody will misrepresent what you're saying and then just say, well, you're anti-Semitic or you don't like Jewish people. When that wasn't your argument. Your argument was that the policies in the country are not good because they're not humanistic, right? Because they're subjugating a group of people there. And somebody would just misrepresent what you're saying and call you an anti-Semite, or say that you don't like Jewish people, or you want to see the demise of Jewish folks, when that's not what you said. And this, I see it quite often. And I see it being weaponized quite often, which is sad, because anti-Semitism, it's the worst thing that you can do. To hate a group of people, period, it is wrong, and it has brought so much destruction. So for someone to try to invalidate an argument by weaponizing that is dangerous, because to me that means that people that truly have that hate in their heart, they're probably going away unscathed, because we are using this to weaponize against people that are fighting for peace. So that's why I say that this is dangerous, and I'm very wary of this because it can lead up to more violence. And we shouldn't have this violence, period, when it comes to Palestinians or Jewish folks, period. No one should have to go through what is happening right now. No one. And I think, and this is just me, right? This is Joanni's opinion, right? My personal civilian opinion. And I think that when it comes to public officials and when it comes to government entities, we should strive to have diplomatic answers to problems. The very last thing that anyone should do would be to answer violence with violence, because it creates, guess what? More violence. So I'm going to leave you all with that very peaceful message. And I hope that you learned something. I know I love regurgitating some of these lessons that I learned a few years back and sharing it with you all, but be on the lookout, because once again, I'm not saying that when people present logical fallacies that their argument is wrong per se, but most likely than not, they don't have a solid footing on the argument that they're presenting if they have to use logical fallacies. So just be aware of that, because I think we're going to get wrapped around in this axle per se quite a lot from here on out, especially in the US as we start gearing up towards election. So as always, just make sure that you watch what you say and mean what you say and research what you're about to say. All right. Thank you. Hope to see you all next Wednesday. Bye.
Oh, we could fly.
Thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to follow and subscribe to the show. See you on the next episode. Bye.
Oh, we could fly.